We have known that Jared Kushner is close with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, but new reporting in the New York Times shows us just how close. Quote, the two men were on a first-name basis, calling each other Jared and Mohammed in text messages and phone calls. The piece goes on. The exchanges continued even after the October 2nd killing of Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi journalist who was ambushed and dismembered by Saudi agents, according to two former senior American officials and two people briefed by the Saudis. It goes even further. Kushner has offered the Crown Prince advice about how to weather the storm, urging him to resolve his conflicts around the region and avoid further embarrassments. Embarrassments? Chopping up into little pieces a U.S. resident.
It's only embarrassing if you get caught.
Well, this is embarrassing. I mean, you read this article. It's a fabulous, long, excruciating article in the New York Times.
Yeah.
Talking about a PowerPoint presentation that was given in Saudi Arabia about exactly how to get into the inner circle of the White House. And surprise, surprise, it's this naive, completely uneducated in foreign affairs, young, family member who ends up being the route to what has been an absolute foreign policy embarrassment is our relationship with Saudi Arabia. And so, you see the parallels between the way that they got into Jared Kushner and the way that Russia got into Donald Trump. You see the naivete, the fact that, we still have President Trump using his personal cell phone and the Chinese and the Russians listening in all the time. I mean, it just goes on and on. These people are not fit to lead.
Kim, there's a question that a former intelligence official raised with me today. MB, it's not in this piece, which is exceptional and incredibly detailed and corroborated with so many obvious different sources and different streams of information. But MBS is known to use WhatsApp, an encrypted texting message. I've never seen it reported anywhere that he's communicated with any other service. This intelligence official thought it would be very difficult for those messages to ever be retrieved and preserved by the laws required for all White House communications.
Right. I mean, the reason that people use WhatsApp is because of that end-to-end encryption that you can't see. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I used when I went to China, because I didn't want Chinese people hacking what was going on. So I think that is extraordinary, the fact that there is this direct line with a senior White House official and somebody who multiple nations have decided by their intelligence is
including this one.
Including our own intelligence officials, is a cold-blooded murderer. I mean, I don't like playing the imagine if game because I think it's usually not helpful. But imagine if, I don't know, Valerie Jarrett was found to be texting a cold-blooded murderer, and the fallout that would have ensued. That is what we're talking about here. And it's not just the connection there, it's the inroads that Saudi Arabia has made within this White House. They are political, they are financial. It's really extraordinary.
Yeah, Valerie Jarrett wouldn't have been in the Crown Prince Club that apparently Jared and this guy are in. And you watch these things play out, okay? When do they ever ask themselves, what's the right thing to do here?
Oh, my microphone, I'm sorry.
All right, you can pick up for him, Michael.
Well, that's a good question. What is the right thing to do here? And I don't think that question is ever really raised. When you come from a purely transactional background, when everything is a deal and an opportunity, when you're trying to pump financial life back into your building on Fifth Avenue, when you're trying to block and tackle people in government who are actually trying to help the president, go back to the transition and things like that, where a lot of people came with goodwill and intent, but they were blocked and kept away. It tells you that the insular nature of this family-run enterprise is designed to remain just that. And so this is just an extension. With MBS is an extension of that. It's all about the deal.
They don't ask themselves, all they ask themselves is, how can we get over? What lie do we have to tell to get past this? I love the word embarrassment being used about the murder of this guy in broad daylight. And nobody is hearing any moral alarms here because guess what? None are being sounded in this White House, ever.
What do you make of the prospect of these communications, which could be central to understanding U.S.-Saudi relations for a generation, potentially being lost to all White House records?
Well, you're assuming that those communications have anything to do with the governance and foreign affairs of the nation when it comes to Saudi Arabia.
I'm sure they do. We know that they do because we're advising him on how to get around our own government's position about him having killed Khashoggi.
Right, but that doesn't go to some of the other things that you would also, I mean, that's a particular criminal act that has serious ramifications. But more broadly speaking, when you talk about the relationship between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, the ongoing transactional nature of that relationship, which, by the way, doesn't just start with this administration, it goes back in time. And that's something that the Saudis have leveraged to their advantage, again, but all of that's missed if you're doing it encrypted.
But I think you're making a bigger point. You're saying, who's to say they aren't also doing personal business that enriches
That's
both
correct.
sides?
That's right.
Well, even more reason to see what their message is about.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.